Please, if somebody is up there, please allow me to know more. All of the sudden, all the noise of the shopping mall went away. All I could hear was this song. And it was an angel choir. And hey guys, welcome to the Shamayim Podcast. My name is Carolina. I'm a fiber artist. I'm also a writer and a Reiki master. Today I'm gonna be sharing with you the beginning of my spiritual journey. So first I want to say that I don't feel like anything in this world actually starts or ends ever. Because I feel like I was searching for this all my life. I don't know if it was meant to be, or it's because I'm a Scorpio. I don't know, but I feel like I had to do this somehow, and even before this happening that I'm gonna tell you about happened in my life, I feel like I searched for something more. I always felt like I was special. Well, maybe not so much that I was special, but I was different. I never fit in. It's not that I grew up in a bad environment or I had a bad childhood. Not at all. On the contrary, but I never felt. I always felt like a black sheep of the family. And this was a dimension I was looking for all my life. So, that was this major breakthrough. But everything I did, there was this passion for understanding the world, for reading every book, understanding the human mind, being attracted to poetry and art, and I feel all of those things were a prelude to what I found out later. I'm gonna do the background. At that time, I was working in a clothes shop, and I was in a good place in my life, physically. I had this stable job. I got a house with my boyfriend of 5 years. And it felt like I had achieved everything that my parents were expecting of me. The stability of having a good job, a person, a house, the car, the future ahead, and I was making my parents and my society proud. But suddenly that felt like nothing. The place I wanted to go to be this good girl, the the good example. When I was there, it then felt like nothing. And and so, like in every fairy tale, the beginning of the fairy tale, when the princess uh, gets born, or gets born, there's always a godmother fairy that comes and brings her a gift. And that happened to me 3 years prior of this, working on the shop, almost getting married. And yeah, my godmother, my real godmother, she's not a fairy, although she was connected with the wind. She gave me a book, and I started to read it, and like I used to read everything I could grab. Anything. Sometimes I used to read 2 books a day. And so, like, what I'm trying to say is that I'd really like to read, and there was not so much. Of course, I had my favorite topics, but I used to read about everything. But that book just didn't. I don't know. I didn't felt it, and so I put it on my bookshelf. And 50 years later, when I'm in this situation, working in that shop, I had nothing to read, and I was super bored. And so I went and I picked up that book. It was New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And suddenly, everything made sense. It was like I had been waiting all my life to read that. And it was amazing. Eckhart was talking about the nature of the mind and how, basically how much we are in the mind instead of in the being. So they were like these 2 positions, and I'm sorry if I'm not describing it good. I'm trying to describe it exactly how I felt about it back then. And there was these 2 energies of like the ego and the mind, but the being, and all of this dimensions we were not aware because we were being enslaved by the mind. And yeah, I guess back then, because I didn't know what shadow work was. Since I didn't had made my shadow work yet, I became obsessed with this enemy I had in my head that was called the ego. I was like, yes, I'm like that person too. If I feel like I have something really important to tell you, like it could be bad or good, or I was still in this dimension of speaking bad about other people. Although I was always very good, and this sounds a little strange, but in the sense of I was always like super open-minded, But yeah, in contact with other people, you know, we tend to have those flaws of this broken world. But at the same time, I felt like this ego that now I had a war against uh, was entering. I felt beneath this presence. But of course, as we know, the presence can be very mysterious, silent, almost transparent. So what my actual mind understood was that I had this war to face. I had to remove that ego from my own mind. I had to remove that. It's so hard to talk about it now because I have other million concepts on top of it, but back then was basically like, yeah, I have this force, and this is a force that makes me be depressed. This was the force that made me feel more than other people. This force was ruining my life. Although I had such a pretty life in the physical, you know what I mean? I started to get in this division of myself where I was like, okay, I have all my physical life was perfect, but all my inner was imperfect because I still had ego. And so I became obsessed. I even Googled ego, but nothing came up. And so I was super curious. I wanted to know more, but I didn't know where could I find that information. You know, I wanted to go on in this experience. And I think in that book, I feel that it somehow told me, I'm not sure, but to get a journal, told me to write my feelings. So I went to get a journal in the shopping center I used to work in. And I remember getting that journal and sitting in the cafe. I will never forget this. And I don't remember what I wrote. I guess I wrote what I always write, like, please, if somebody's up there, please allow me to know more. All of the sudden, all the noise of the shopping mall went away. All I could hear was this song. And it was an angel choir. And you know the moments of the being that moment where your head stops, where your mind is in total silence and you're just feeling. There I was in the middle of the shopping mall with all of these questions bubbling in me. with my notebook, my will of transcending, and an angel choir singing all around me. I'll never forget that moment. I feel like that desire that moment, now that I believe in, now that I'm seeing it as timelines, as I'm seeing time in a totally different way. I feel like that moment, that, the wish I had to connect with something greater than myself, beyond suffering. It feeds many of my timelines going further. You know how they say that the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning, and I really feel like that moment it can be sending Reiki to many other moments in my life. And so I was like super interested about knowing more about these dimensions, and and this is such a good example how the universe works. When you ask for it, when you have a desire in your heart, you just need to ask, because 15 days later, I guess, the company was making these workshops to help us being better saleswoman, to be better at customer service. And we had one about conflict management. And it was with this woman, and basically she taught us how to create a bubble, on ourselves, and to help the customer without feeling depleted, like this concept of creating the bubble, right? And it was something that everybody could understand, that everybody could relate to. But in the end of that workshop, I went to talk to her, and so I told her my story. I told her, hey, I read this book and I'm super excited to learn more and stuff, and I feel like you understand these things, so please can you guide me, help me, tell me something. And I don't remember what she told me exactly. I remember that she told me other books to read, and I'm really sorry. I wish I could remember the proper conversation. I don't. But she was recommending Osho to me, and yogi teachers maybe. Yeah, but I remember that it worked. And ever since then, I went connecting to one book, and then one other book, and then another book, and then I read all the books, and I spent the rest of the of my time until 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and where I don't read anymore. But that's another topic for another conversation. Yeah, I feel like the law of attraction was really helping me back then with her, because she gave me the next steps on my journey. I feel like the message I want to give with this video to you personally is that you don't have to be... Okay, let's go first. The first one is, if you feel like, I'm not going to say if you feel like you're special, but if you feel you're meant to do something more with your life, then you are, okay? You are special. Let's not forget that you are a star. You are a world. You are everything. So please let's not, if you have an idea, a feeling, just go with it, because it's true. I feel like we live in a society that it's always telling us that our interior, how we feel, how we think, our intuitions are wrong, and they're not, okay? If you feel like you're different from everybody in the family, if you feel like you don't fit in this society, if you feel like there's more for you, it's because there is, okay? There will always be more for you. The second thing is, it is totally normal to maybe have a fulfilled physical life and realizing that that's not enough, that we need other dimensions of ourselves to be expressed, that it is perfectly normal to feel shallow, in a shallow society where the spiritual dimensions of a being, our true nature, is not being used, talked about, lived by our society. But whatever you feel inside of yourself is right, okay? It's normal. And the last thing I want to tell you is that if you have a wish to go somewhere else, to learn something else, you just have to do it. You just have to ask for it. You just have to write in your notebook, please teach me more. And it's not easy to believe in this when you only live in the physical world, in the 3D. It's not easy to believe that by asking to the air, you're gonna get it. But the air is our friend. And life has this intelligence that will guide you. You know what I mean? You don't need You actually don't need the books. You don't need the people. You don't need um, to see videos. You need to ask. And then you will get the people, and then you get the books, and then you get the knowledge. But please ask. You just have to ask. You just have to make a wish, like in my previous video, and all doors would open. I hope this had brought some light to your life, and that by me sharing my story, I can only empower you in yours, wherever whatever step you are in. And I love you. Thank you for being there. I'll see you soon.